coming out of the Washington Times by Fingers Malloy of everywhere. He talks about a new ordinance that's going to be put into place that makes it illegal to throw away food in the trash. You can't throw food away in the trash. It has to be composted or put into a separate container than
And
your
kids are
trash.
supposed to report on their parents, and you're supposed to report on your neighbors and stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's amazing that this is something that is been allowed to happen. Who even thinks about how on earth are they going to enforce this? What is going on?
Can we say, though, that part of the problem, part of the fault for this, lies with those of us who don't kind of watchdog our local governments? And this, originally I heard this whole story from Fingers on Tony Katz's show in the morning on WIBC. And he was talking about all the other things that California bans and whatnot, and then now Seattle's getting into the act. It's this sort of thing that you can't quite get away from in these cities, especially that are liberal enclaves, but it's spreading. It's not something that's isolating itself to the city. Bag bans, plastic bag bans all over the place, things like that. You find that
by the way, don't actually do any good. They're bad and harmful, but it makes people feel good about themselves. So
it does. But you have these governments, these entities that people aren't looking at because they're so busy looking at the national picture and getting upset about that. That the lever to move a city council or a mayor's race or something like that on a smaller scale is so much smaller that you need. And so many people won't look at those things because the national politics are so much sexier. Presidential year politics are so much sexier. It's very discouraging, and I'm encouraged to hear that there are at least somebody's looking at these things, somebody's watching them. But I think we all need to commit this year, especially. This is a lot of municipal elections this year for a lot of places. We need to commit to get a little bit more involved on the local scene, not necessarily taking our eyes off the national scene, but recognizing that this is the sort of stuff that slips in while we're looking at what the guys are doing in Washington.
Well, and it also can be part of, if you don't like electoral politics, if you don't like dealing with politicians and political parties, pick a cause instead, because some of this stuff happens because the groups that decide they are the cause of Mothers Against Plastic Bags or whatever they are, they come together as a cause, and then they make it happen because everybody else is focusing on national politics. So maybe you don't care about your mayor or your city council person, but maybe you care about some other local cause that you can get involved in, making your child's lunches healthy and nutritious and, I don't know, edible. Or, finding a way to provide meals for people before and after school that aren't part of taxpayer-funded education funds that are done by charitable groups in the city. Maybe there's something you can get involved in that allows for restaurants to donate their leftover food at the end of the day to homeless and hungry people. Maybe you can get involved in a cause like that that's going to really change the face of your city, and that can be your conservative political activism. And it still has nothing to do with elected officials or the Republican Party or any of that stuff.
No, absolutely not. And it's one of those things where you can find tons of these causes and have a huge impact in your area just by championing them. And think about it. A lot of these things, like say the homeless feeding ordinances in Florida and in Texas. I mean, I don't want to get Fishy started on this because she gets nuts over this. But I mean, these things are extremely detrimental to people. It's very harmful, and it hurts actual people. It's amazing the stuff that the state is preventing you from doing to help other people.
And we've talked about the motivation for that time and again. It's all taking place around people and among people. Those kind of legislation, those discussions, taking place among people who do not pay the costs, socially, financially, whatever, for the thing that they're against.
Right,
Whatever.
and it doesn't hurt me if I spend another 1% of my livelihood on food because I make so much money that another 1% is no big deal. But it really impacts the poor people. But I don't care about them. So it's more, I think people should use paper bags instead of plastic. So because I'm not effective at persuading the public, because I'm no good at convincing them because it's really wrong, since should isn't effective, I'm going to go for the law and make it a must.
Being very clear on power, the power part of the issues, the compulsion part of the issues, is something conservatives should be able to argue against. But at the same time, as M. Zanotti said in her article in American Spectator, this is a bad conversation for politicians at the presidential race level to get into.